Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. I guess in your case, Alex. Welcome to this AMA.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My pleasure to be here again. And yeah, it's good to see you here again. And it is good that we are starting on time after so many attempts. Yeah, for finally everything is working smoothly from the first minute. All right.
So what's new on your end, my friend? What have you been working on?
A lot of things. So finalizing 6.0. Yeah, well, still there is need to check review some things. So yeah, Dusik discovered some issues, version issues. So I'm fixing them now. Then yeah, back to subblocks. So doing some codes now, and yeah, hopefully this month, if no surprises, but they always happen, so who knows. So yeah, hope to publish EAP, reworked EAP proposal based on the from text, which is messy, and yeah, now needs for polishing, along with some code. So currently I have just some stupid stuff, so subblocks being generated by local miner, and then yeah, processing stubs here and there, but so now I'm filling this with real logic, maybe of prototype quality, but still. And then yeah, we'll polish things. Then what else? So yeah, so for Dexy we have Spectrum SDK pull request merged, and yeah, checking what to do next. There is need for more developers. In particular, we need for UI maintainer. It's good idea probably to introduce UI fee like done in CQSD interface. So yeah, please please join us. So yeah, that's the main limiting factor for now. Probably then yeah, also would be happy to see contributions with subblocks. So yeah, we'll check developers group today. So yeah, if there are guys willing to contribute, I will make issues with bounties, so on. Then yeah, reviewing Sigma Rust features. So just today reviewed, and yeah, it seems to be done now. Support for deterministic signatures, which is needed for Keystone integration. So yeah, it seems PGR456 now unblocked. So he was blocked with the need for deterministic signatures, since there is no random generation API provided by hardware there on Keystone, unlike let's say big operating systems like Linux, Windows, and so on, right? So there is need to work with randomness differently, in short. And yeah, so now it's supported by Sigma Rust. So well, Keystone integration is going further then. Then for Ledger integration, yeah, unfortunately, my peer wasn't approved by Ledger, so he is a former Kodelsky security employee, but yeah, we are not lucky in, well, getting Ledger team to get Kodelsky quality from the former employee. So yeah, I mean, currently, well, other folks are, well, looking, actually talking with approved entities. So it's about Kodelsky and yeah, another company, which name I've forgotten. So Kudelski is well known to me since they did some audits for some parts of the Ergonauts before, back in 2019. So that they did audit for inbuilt wallet, for cryptography, for proof of work, certain aspects of it. Yeah, what else? Yeah, also thinking about getting how to get more developers on board. So on Saturday, I'm giving a talk at some local event it's mostly a developers event, just like maybe 50 or 60 folks attending. But yeah, I mean it's good still, right? So maybe with just a few developers we can do more. So I mean there are a lot of ideas. So just Bruno only has like, I don't know. Like 5 or 6 new different ideas, and then I also published some things on forum recently, such as hash rate coin, random coin, and so on. There is need to improve infrastructure. Still right a bit. Then in core there is need for some development, for reviews, for documentation, and so on. Then published very recently an article about it's called money ownership in the age of programmable money, right? And based on that, now doing a talk for some event which is about art, actually, and it will take place in Italy on December 21st, and I'm recording a video, and it will be about property rights in the age of programmable money, right? Because, it seems with tokenized real-world assets and so on, with smart contracts in particular, right? So this topic is more broad, especially if we are talking about such blockchain, let's say, friendly to grasping such ownership issues as Ergo, right? But even if we are talking about Ethereum, so I made a tweet recently about Tornado Cash court decision, and it's also about property rights recently, right? So the court actually decided that Tornado Cash smart contract is not a property, right? And then it cannot be OFAC sanctioned, right? Because of that. So it's just autonomous piece of software, and then it's not quite legal to sanction a piece of code. Which is actually quite interesting development, and I think it also does sound similar, but so I'm doing a talk for some events about art, digital art in particular. Then we have a lot of interesting possibilities here, talking about property rights, right? And programmable property rights sometimes, maybe, and so on, right? For tokenized assets, tokenized art, and so on. Preparing a talk about that. Then also planning another Asian tour, and this time hopefully it will be not Dubai, because too much Dubai probably for me. Thinking about visiting Hong Kong around Consensus Conference, and maybe someplace around I know we have Ergonauts in Vietnam, South Korea, and so on. So yeah, well, we'll check with peers there. What's the possibility? And yeah, would be good to make something in Hong Kong also. So we had quite good meetup there back in 2019, which is available on YouTube, by the way. To talk from there. Then what else? What else?
No, what's new in terms of the dev update this week? I saw a lot of things from Cheese.
Yeah, well, it was quite amazing dev update. So we have a new developer which made a tool, actually quite interesting tool to encrypt and decrypt seed phrase. So yeah, to produce BEP 39 seed phrase and encrypt it. And yeah, he claims that yeah, he's not developer but willing to do something on Ergo. So he used AI mostly on that, but yeah, the seed quality is checked with some Python statistical analysis scripts and so on. So yeah, that sounds interesting. So well, please feel free to check the chat and to check the tool and use it. So I don't know. I mean, it's getting more and more interesting because, well, I'm going to check developers which joined recently or started to develop something not so trivial recently, such as HQ, right, with Mu tooling, and then Mark the Shark, this new guy with AI script, AI made script, and yeah, who else? There are 2 or 3 other folks. Yeah, Bebe, so some guy with a Discord account, Bebe, somewhat. And yeah, so my impression, you know, is that these days, because we have a lot of open source tooling available, open source contracts, UI, and so on. So developers are mostly, well, combining or to take an existing functionality, right, and well, reworking it into something new, right? Some modifications. For starters, then deeper modifications, then something maybe totally new. So that was the path of Mu, I believe, Mu Finance, right? And that's actually quite exciting to me. So that's the power of open source, right? So not just open source, but free software, right? So you can take it, you can modify, you can run modified version freely, right? And then yeah, the only thing is that yeah, well, do your modification free as well, right? And then people will develop on foundations provided by you, and then yeah, because of that, we may have well, evolutionary development process, right, with stable and solid contracts, and yeah, also streamlined and easy development cycle. So quite good, but yeah, well, also, well, talking about cheese and so on. So, well, I think still, you know, well, the Ergo potential is uncovered by like 1% maybe. So, well, with roll-up schemes and so on. So I'm thinking about some layer 2 constructions, discussing some these days, even with very old folks. So some with Katana even since he has some experience with Bitcoin layer 2, so the idea is that it's fine to building on the existing ground, but it's 99% of potential still uncovered, so there is time to open new horizons, right, for the different developments possible. To do more writings forum posts and so on. And Louis, for example, Louis Watra made an excellent post recently about how to use EEP5. So contract templates, which is quite powerful tooling, actually, which is allowing for using contracts within contracts, so to reason about contracts within contracts, right, in some not so hard and pretty streamlined way. So quite powerful feature, and I'm not sure any other blockchain has it actually.
Yeah, I saw that was also starting to play with the mempool and voting, which is awesome to see.
That's probably all, and probably not from me. So what's new on your side?
I was pretty excited to see Lethos development, where I know the Cheese is starting to finish the NISP contracts and work on DevNets. So he's trying to create more contracts for kind of optimistic evaluations of NISPs and working on kind of share proofs. The Sigmanaut mining pool this week was hitting some big boxes in terms of storage rent. That was really nice to see. There's quite a, I guess, just based on like 4 years in the past, where they're starting to pick up more kind of activity in terms of boxes available that are kind of stale. So seeing those extra miner rewards is pretty awesome. I also saw that Duck Pools is going to go through their next round of kind of raising. If you look at how their roadmap is laid out, they said, okay, well, we're going to go through periodic fundraising efforts and have pretty clear roadmap in terms of what they're going to do for each particular phase. I always support that. I always throw my money at it because it's one of those things that I guess where your attention goes, you tend to get more of, right? Well, you pay for what you want to see. So that's one of my favorite projects in Ergo that they do a lot of really good documentation if you go through everything that they do, which circling back to kind of this idea of like a natural evolution of kind of the development around open source software, having that type of not only complexity but like documentation detail is really foundational. So I always have to kind of tip my hat to what Crass is doing over there, and encourage people to look into it, support it, use it. Paidea's kicking off, and I think that's going to be really powerful software suite long term. I think that you do need like direct management and engagement, which is sometimes hard when people's mindset is more like, I don't know, just speculative, meme coining or whatever in the crypto space. But having like real world tools that are useful is fascinating to me. What else? PGR looks like he submitted the pull request for the Silver Oracle. So as Dexy moves towards mainnet, I've got to resync with Bruno and the team and see what options are available in terms of kind of the natural evolution of protocols. Where I guess we have enough time now watching Gluon that we could potentially say, okay, well, what have we learned based on experience, and what are the observations, and potentially improve or alter, kind of the existing glue on gold a little bit, which I think is a pretty neat step forward. What else? We submitted the Hummingbot requests to the Hummingbot Foundation, which is going to lead to really kind of a unique framework where with Rosen, we kind of unify trading environments across central exchanges. But one of the neat things about, Hummingbot for trading on top of Rosen or managing liquidity is you now have access to multiple environments to bot trade on KYC free. So that's always a nice assumption for users. I don't know exactly how long that's going to take for them to go through like a review process, but that's kind of the next order of operations in that kind of development path. And it's going to be interesting to see what evolves there, because Ergo is kind of a nice environment due to low fees, right? So you always have like this friction in terms of the market costs of trading. If you're talking like in AMM, you can look at the pool fee, which is always some balance between what liquidity providers, are incentivized by, as well as what, the people buying and selling are willing to inherit, I guess, in terms of costs. And then you also have this execution cost, which, in some systems, if you look at like ETH with gas, when, Bitcoin goes down or up, there's always a race in DeFi protocols, and gas goes through the roof. And it'll be interesting to see how, I don't know, kind of the efficiency of, order execution and Ergo makes it an attractive market for more active trading, because it, lowers that friction a little bit in terms of cost. And then it's just a matter of liquidity and opportunity, I guess. Let's see. With Rosen, working on Dogecoin integration. We finally pushed a more dynamic mobile build, which is nice to see. I'm not always the biggest mobile user, to be honest, just because, phone is small, it's easy to lose, that kind of thing. But having a dynamic UI is pretty nice to see, and I hope people out there appreciate that. Also working with Binance Smart Chain, going through rounds of testing in terms of integration. We're working on creating a new watcher build that hopefully is a little bit more performant, efficient. A lot of upgrades in the background and up and down the stack in Rosen. I hope that my goal is, we see that live as we roll through the end of the year, but we always need to test and check and then repeat. So we're kind of in that phase. That's pretty much it for me. You want to get into the questions?
Oh, my bad. Was muted. So, let's jump on the questions. There is some topic to discuss, but QX is not here. After spending a week with students and getting probably totally exhausted, I don't understand him. All right, so we need to decide when to make spaces and Zoom calls, but let's do that our the Telegram group, which is bridged with Discord. I mean, the main Telegram group. which is bridged with general channel in Discord, and yeah, we can discuss such things there after the MA. So yeah, let's jump on the questions.
All right, so let's see.
Let's start maybe with Mr. Whitecat. Hello guys, where is your PGAs?
Pajamas.
Yeah, the most serious question probably.
I just woke up. You know, it's one of those things. I keep the video above the chest, so I'm not
Yeah,
even worried.
the same reason. So yeah, you have to guess where PGIs are.
Let's see. I'll go. I'll pick a couple. I think FC has a good question.
Yeah.
Tokenization is easy in theory, right? Chop something up into small bits via a good smart contract. What are the standards for controlling physical assets? It seems right with fraud and mismanagement. Yeah, there's a lot of hyper-financialization schemes around tokenization that may or may not make sense, right? I'll drop some of my perspective. Okay, so like in Colorado, we have this area in the middle of the state called the San Luis Valley, right? It's a kind of a beautiful area, but it is like this high desert. Okay, and so the infrastructure and the utility of land there is not so great, actually. You know, it's kind of interesting because there's like some geographical like qualities in terms of like deep water and stuff, but it's pretty popular for people to say like, okay, somebody bought this huge tract of land and then they split it up into these tiny little chunks, and they fractionalize it, and then they try to say, okay, well, you know, now we're going to sell these little fractions of land that are absent infrastructure and you know, give them to people as some sort of like speculative asset, or I don't know, I guess sometimes people will go up there and camp or whatever. So I guess there's some utility there. But it kind of can create more of a financial scheme than like a utility driven development. Okay. And it's really interesting if you start to say, okay, well, let's take like, I don't know, my car, and you fractionalize ownership of it across people. Well, who gets to use it? Is it something that's like being driven for like a utilitarian commercial purpose that has profit distribution? You know, like who is in charge is always an interesting question in there. Like who gets to use whatever the utility is. You could take a house and chop it into, you know, millimeter by millimeter squares and say, okay, well, you know, I'm going to sell these shares of the house. And what does that represent in reality, right? You know, does it just represent like some fractional ownership of like an asset? And it's interesting because maybe that, you know, I guess is useful if there's like revenue and profit distribution, but it also creates some weird questions like who controls the title, right? Because when you're talking about physical assets, you usually have some regulatory layers that you have to deal with. And when you have centralized counterparties, you generally need some legal entity or mechanism to deal with those like friction points, right? And then it's like abstracted a little further. Like, let's say that you have a house that has been, you know, put in millimeter by millimeter squares and sold. How do you come to consensus to actually sell the house? Or are you permanently stuck in this weird notion of like fractionalized ownership that has no consensus to actually move the asset? And then, you know, I guess when that happens where it's like you're stuck, there's usually some party or entity that's taking fees from, you know, moving around these little fractions. And, you know, it kind of creates, I don't know, just weird schemes, right? Do I think that having like physical real world assets on chain is valuable? Yeah, I think it can be super valuable in terms of how money is raised and perhaps how profits are distributed. But you have to always remember those layers of like regulatory footprint in some jurisdiction in physical reality, and that adds extreme complexity off chain that makes like clean logic hard. I think it makes a lot more sense when you have like, let's say gold. It's a bearer asset, right? It doesn't have a footprint in a jurisdiction, and a lot of those layers are less influential versus if you have a house or I don't know, mineral rights or a car or something that is more grounded in a single jurisdiction and laws. Like the level of complexity goes through the roof completely. So is tokenization easy in theory? Yeah, but then when you look at like off-chain reality is messy, and you kind of are forced more or less to comply within existing jurisdictions, and that is not always easy to do in a distributed or decentralized or trustless way, I guess. What do you think, Kushti?
Um, yeah, so mostly, but we'll continue actually. So yeah, well, it's quite complex when you tokenize something like a house or a picture, right? So I mean, if you have some picture, it's some art gallery, and you digit so sell digital pieces of it, right? So like 1,000 pieces. Then what does it mean to own one piece out of 1,000, right? So what are your property rights here? But it's even more complex if link programmability, right? If we are adding more complex cryptography and if we are adding scripts. So, for example, we have till 1,000 pieces, but let's one piece is owned by you, other by me, third piece is owned by two out of two signature of yours and mine, and then fourth possessed by a ring signature, so one key out of those two keys, yours or mine. And then let's say 500 tokens are possessed by some contract, right? Unlocking one token a month and maybe sending it to last block miner, for example, right? Then I mean, at the moment, if this emission contract has 500 tokens, so let's take maybe more clear example, 600, right? Then at this point, majority of tokens, that makes sense. Talk about majority of tokens representing a picture. So possessed by some contracts, but it's hard to associate, right? Those tokens with some keys, with some keys in the real deal, right? So I mean, this association will be made, right? Gradually, token by token, by the emission process. So that is at this point when it's still locked in a contract. Who owns this picture, right? It's quite complicated. It seems commodities is the lowest hanging fruit. So I'm talking with Dan about his lithium project, right? And then, in commodities setting, so it makes sense to combine physical and digital tokens, right? So tokens representing physical lithium, for example, with algorithmic lithium stablecoin, for example, which would be used to secure which is not produced yet, right? So if you are buying lithium, then you can get stablecoin immediately, right? Then yeah, well, you are secured by that stable coin, but when physical lithium is produced, so you can exchange well, algorithmic lithium to physical to digital tokens representing physical lithium for starters, and then to physical lithium, right, which you can hold in your hands if you want to hold lithium in your hands. Right, it could be toxic, I'm not sure. Then yeah, so and well, in regards with this, so then it's not issue, right? So currently we have issue with solid stable coins such as SICUSD, Gleon also probably, right? Because of, well, over collateralization means you cannot mint a lot of tokens, right? Because you need for a lot of capital, right, to reserves and so on. But when you use algorithmic stable coins as a buffer, right, for physical assets, then it makes sense. Then you are using algorithmic stable coins to secure risks, right? You may have, for example, lithium may not be produced, right? There is a chance of that. Or you can buy a brick of gold in some vault in Dubai, for example, when you're outside, but then you have a chance of another COVID pandemic, right? And then no flights, so you cannot reach the vault, and in this case, you can have, well, your stable coin based insurance, basically. I made a forum post on that many months ago on well, contract which is yes, securing physical assets with well, the digital algorithmic twins, so physical gold, for example, with algorithmic gold.
Yeah, there's a lot of financial products that exist based on like the time friction of delivery, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, you know, you have, I guess, a lot of paper financial products that first started with that friction, where it's like, okay, you own something that is in transit to you or to somewhere else, and so it represents a claim rather than like possession. Like it's not really a bearer asset because you don't have it, someone else has it, but you have that friction in terms of settlement and physical reality, right? So it's like you have a producer that fills a ship with oil, and as that oil is moving across the ocean, contracts are constantly being switching hands, you know, every turn of the propeller until it gets to the final destination. And then usually there's some notion of like settlement and possession of the commodity once it's physically arrived. And that friction is never going to go away in physical reality, right? We're talking about things that do not settle instantly because they have to move in the real world. And so having, you know, some, I guess, abstraction of ownership that I guess in some sense is like a layer two, where it's like a notion of like confirmation and settlement that will later happen once reality catches up. You know, that's constantly happening with commodities, and I think that is one of the more interesting use cases of those type of stable coins.
Right. So yeah, well, a lot of interesting possibilities here, right? And a lot of complexities. Well, especially if we are talking about, well, property rights and, well, in this age we are already living in the age of programmable assets, right? Programmable ownership.
probably good to answer this question from Wombo. Arm, can you speak a bit about your experience over the week with Catalyst drama, what you heard, and your thoughts on it? Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really see it as drama. Um, so, Catalyst is built with certain parameters, okay? And whenever you're going to deal with things on chain, it's a good idea to get some like notion of what the parameters are and how things operate. So, like from my framework, mentally, anyway, you look at it, it's one ADA, one vote. It's essentially like a DeFi protocol, right? And so as a DeFi protocol, I guess if you look at how it functions, it is something that has an open attack vector for whales. It always has, right? So, we can look back in the Ergo experience of like SigUSD, for a while had a um, a certain whale that was moving things around just based on the weight of value that whale could push around, right? That's always been a open vector for Catalyst drama. And so, I've always kind of watched Catalyst and say, okay, this is interesting. Like, if I were to go talk to Binance or Upbit or, like party that, has a dominant amount of power in, let's say, ADA, they have the ability to influence outcomes. That's how the system's designed, right? So then it's like, okay, there's some like logical path where unless that changes, the most logical outcome is that a large party can vote for themselves, right? And that is kind of a shitty form of governance, maybe. But I don't know. I didn't create the parameters. It's not my game. But I went to the table with that knowledge, right? And so you had an entity that's actually not that large of an entity, and it was the Cardano Foundation, which I'm going to say probably has more, I don't know, alignment of intent than other potential whales, right? If we look at the SigUSD and like how the bear whale has his own incentive, right? And that's profit. I think probably the Cardano Foundation has less of a profit incentive. Maybe they're making a statement or trying to get something. I don't know exactly what their intent was. And to be honest, I don't need to care because that's how the game is, right? So if something happens in an open system within the parameters of how a protocol functions, that's called fair game. So I'm not going to sit around and cry about it. And I know some people will talk about philosophy and social theory and what is good and what is, bad and what is right and what is wrong. And those are terrible security incentives for DeFi. And essentially, that's how this system operates. So no crying. Understand your assumptions in the system. And try to do your best to navigate within that. And, like for Rosen, we've tried to create partnerships with, like when MinSwap supported us in the past, Liquid has supported us, and they have, pretty large power in terms of allocating votes. That's just the game, right? So it is what it is. Things happen, no crying. You just, adapt, figure it out, move forward. I think that sometimes when you're looking like DeFi, you just need to be cold and look at the parameters of a system. This is how it functions, and operate from that perspective rather than like an emotional level. Because crying is not the type of liquidity we need, folks. Why don't we go to the next question? Why don't you pick one?
Actually, a lot of questions. Some comments. Nice coffee cup, Joe. Anything to share about hack participants, winners? You wanna take this?
I was not a judge this time. I've been a little bit busy off chain. I do know that it looks like Saturgo came in first place. I think Bruno got second.
Yeah.
The Shark and the Sigmanauts came in third. I haven't really dived into the projects, to be honest. It's one of those things where you get busy and then just external like bandwidth
Yeah, so yeah, the first place is not just Satergo, but Saterga offline vault. So yeah, some solution for, well, increased security, especially when we are talking about sensitive amounts, right? When you shouldn't use mobile for sure, right? I mean, that's quite terrible choice talking about security. So I mean, mobile wallet is just for small amounts to play with, yeah, to have some fun, maybe to buy a pizza with ergs and so on, but yeah, not for serious holding. And yeah, so one of the options for serious holding would be well, better after certain reviews. I would be happy to find time to take a look. So Satergo offline vault. Then yeah, well, the second place is Bruno's, yeah, beneficiary platform. And yeah, I'm in the middle of watching the video actually. So yeah, well, I'm posting them to Ergo chats when I'm starting watching. So I've posted Satergo and yeah, Bruno's, and yeah, I'm in the middle of listening to it in the background. Then yeah, the third place is Sigmanauts mining pool, somewhat project, right? And then there are other interesting projects such as community liquidity bootstrapping initiative. So how well people who don't know about Ethereum and so on can participate in liquidity provision on well Ethereum. So provide liquidity for Ethereum to ERC and USDT to ERC pools on Uniswap. So very interesting project, I think. Check and yeah, well, need to check other projects. So I didn't participate this time because of traveling, and yeah, well, didn't have time to take a close look to all the submissions, to be honest. So yeah, well, maybe next time we can provide more extensive reviews. A lot of things happening. Yeah, then any question?
Let me.
You want to prioritize a lot of questions. That's good.
A lot of good questions. I'm going to take this one from Luke Graysmith. Can government be separated from money? Can money be separated from government? For most of human history, the peg, at least that fiat has been around, the peg that kind of was the underlying base layer of money was not necessarily controlled by government. Then that would be like gold and silver. Now, to some degree, it's like, okay, was that physical asset like controlled and through force? Yeah. So I guess like on some level, even though like gold and silver being like the underlying peg for most fiat still was connected to this idea of like, I don't know, keep what you kill. And usually, so governments and, groups have always kind of been fighting for ownership rights of various resources on this planet. So it's hard to say like full separation, because government is just some like abstraction of collective human power. And it's kind of hard to have like money, which is a human phenomenon, separate from like humanity as a collective. But one interesting thing about something like, proof of work assets or gold is it's like it is globally distributed. It just takes, work and energy to, in essence, refine or extract these assets. And there's a separation from the let's say There's like the ability to hard code amounts in terms of money, which I guess maybe like on some level the universe did that in terms of like precious metals that are available in our little biosphere, or in like the case of Bitcoin or Ergo, they launched from Genesis with some finite amount. Um, so like, can it be separated? I think that it's not exactly a clear-cut question, because, government is just like an abstraction of collective human consciousness that, creates some consensus or order, and, usually has some notion of like projecting power. So not fully, but you can certainly restrict some of the parameters around like money and how that operates. And I think that as like you get away from centralization, you generally get better assumptions. What's your thought, Alex?
Yeah, so historically also, well, many countries know so-called free banking when banks issued money without special regulations. So that was in the US, mostly from 1830s to 1864. Then later it took place in Canada, Hong Kong. Yeah, I'm not sure about regulations, but yeah, currency there is well issued by private banks. But yeah, I guess there are regulations now, right? So well, currently, I'm not sure any free banking systems remain. And so there are talks about getting back to free banking, right? And I think with blockchain, it actually makes sense because of transparency, right? So the usual issue was well, fractional reserve, right, and well, improper reporting of reserves by private banks. Then, yeah, in all the cases, basically, governments use that to intervene, right, so to take control, but then they did basically the same. So, well, improper reporting of reserves and so on. Well, playing with fractional reserve, so it was back in 19th century even, right? So a long time before abandoning gold standard. So back in 19th century, there was no government fully backing paper money, despite the claims. Already, right, but still, so governments used the same issues on a private bank side to, well, take control from private banks. Right, than to do the same, basically. So yeah, now with blockchains, right, with transparency, possible transparency of reserves and operations. Yeah, it's possible, right, to get back to free banking. And actually, so chain cash is some attempt, right, to model well, the revival of free banking on top of blockchain assets. So the second presentation of chain cash is about that. Actually, so the first one was more technical, right? And yeah, it was Ergo hack report. But yeah, the second presentation is for general audience familiar with free banking ideas. But the idea is as simple as that. So it's when private banks can issue money, right, under the same units of account. So, well, if we are talking about the US, for example, back in 19th century, so it was dollar, right, but issued by different banks. And well, on blockchain, now everyone can be the bank, right? So then, Yeah, well, and also everyone, well, in case of chain cash, is free to use well, full coverage or fractional reserve, and then yeah, it's up to, well, agents accepting notes issued in this free banking kind of system, and. Yeah, going back to the question, right? So yeah, I mean it's a pretty well known environment, I guess, and yeah, well, before 20th century, actually, that was quite normal to have private money, right? Along with government money, or well, there were many countries actually not having central banks and government issued money at all. So yeah, I mean it's government owned money is relatively new phenomenon, actually, historically. Okay.
See.
Well, hopefully, I mean, we can talk more about when it comes to such topics.
Yeah,
We can talk for a long time, but yeah, probably not.
yeah, I was thinking about that in relation to stablecoins actually, as you were talking.
Yeah, well, stable coins also a form of private money, right?
Yeah,
And
and it
issued by Tether, for example.
yeah, and there's always questions like what's the backing or auditability of it, and like on some extract like abstract level, it's like, okay, well, let's say you have backing, and it's like, okay, I'm sitting on this couch, and this couch can be denominated in dollars, so then can I create my own, Joe's couch dollars that's backed by this couch, and then say, hey, everybody, we're gonna spend, Joe couch dollars, and it
But
has.
actually, why not? So it would still be better than most of meme coins, right? Because well,
Yeah.
in case of meme coins, so it's not even claimed that they're backed by anything, right? So they just I don't
Social
know.
energy
Yeah, so
speculation.
social energy, some information phenomenon,
Yeah.
how to call it? I don't know. So some meme, actually, right?
I think you just say that like there's this weird phenomenon that's like where attention goes, I don't know, energy flows and money goes there too. So it's like memes are constantly trying to be like, give me attention, give me attention. And the more attention they get, then people throw money at it. So I guess in some sense, maybe Joe's couch dollars are a little bit more durable, but it's weird because like if you talk to somebody that's not familiar with like blockchain or for your banking, they'll be like, hey, isn't that counterfeiting? Right? Like you're creating some abstract dollar that's, not quote unquote a dollar. And so I think like that's ultimately where you get a lot of friction from government anyway, is there's probably people that have this mindset like you're creating artificial dollars that we don't have the same level of oversight and control versus like the you know original dollar. So I think that is one of the biggest pain points probably in terms of stable coins pegged to fiat, specifically in the US. Like you're inheriting their jurisdiction and their mindset, and that's dangerous. And so I even think we're going to see like a more of a split than we've already seen. It's like, okay, you have, USDC and they have some, regulatory support, and then, Ripple is coming and they're going to have, better licensing. So like, again, if you go back to what we were talking about with real world assets, it's like you have to deal with these off-chain layers in different jurisdictions, and like at some point it unlocks potential utility, but it also creates a single attack surface. And it's like, well, maybe there's value in that utility, but your resilience maybe doesn't, so much exist anymore. And that's going to be an interesting trade-off to see how people deal with that, or approach it, or don't deal with it, I guess. I've always thought that dealing with that layer of like jurisdictional complexity probably makes the most sense on another layer than the base, but that's my thought. Anyway, see any good questions, Alex?
A lot of let's start with some shilling maybe. Where can we buy Ergo heads like yours worldwide? So you wanna shill some store?
Uh,
Not really.
I have no idea. The internet. Somebody in the chat forwarded a link at some point, and I bought a hat. So hopefully you can join, like, I don't know, Telegram, Discord, Twix, whatever they call it now, and ask, what's the latest and greatest place to buy Ergo physical merchandise. And Mew is an option, but I hope
I think Mart has some steel, but they have make mining great again, right? Heads.
yeah.
But the question is about yours.
I have no idea.
Do you want to sell it maybe on you? Well, do you have maybe some extra to sell?
I don't know. I bought a better one.
Wanna sell your supplier maybe?
Yeah, I bought a better one like 3 years ago, but I gave it to MG Pie.
All right. Yeah, then let me answer a question. How can this Ergo network interact with other blockchain networks that they use different consensus algorithms? So there are many different options here. So if we are talking about proof of work blockchains with let's say simple consensus, such as Bitcoin with its just SHA-256 hash function being used as proof of work function, then you can build even a trustless relay from Bitcoin to Ergo. And actually, prototype was built by me at some Ergo hack back in June, I believe, right? So you can check it, and by using that trustless relay, so you can trustlessly bring Bitcoin to Ergo maybe, right? You just need to consider a lock-in condition on Bitcoin. You can use, for example, you can burn Bitcoin on a Bitcoin blockchain and present proof to get some tokens on Ergo blockchain. That's a proof of burn idea, maybe not popular now, but back in 2014 there were some kind of ICOs or token generation events based on proof of burn, right? And I guess a lot of Bitcoins were burned via proof of burn events. Then you can also bring information from Bitcoin blockchain. So messages and metadata written in op return outputs. The problem is that the opposite way doesn't work, right? So from Ergo to Bitcoin, you cannot build a trustless relay. Really, well, at least it's not known how to build one because of Bitcoin limitations. In this case, you can use multi-signature based solutions, and here, maybe Joe can tell us about Rosen Bridge and how it works with different blockchains based on different consensus mechanisms.
Sure. Well, you basically are kind of abstracting that off the chain, at least with Rosen. So you're creating, scanners that are reading and posting data between two networks. So you kind of have an intermediary layer. Yeah, there's a lot of different potential ways to connect different environments. I would recommend that, if you want to look at how Rosen works, we have a lot of documentation on the website. You can also join the channel and kind of dive into kind of the different chains that we connect to, and how they operate, what their assumptions are, because we always have to have a footprint in like whatever their consensus or finality process looks like. So it's a little bit different in a way if you're looking at like the assumptions of settlement from system to system to system. But there's a lot of different ways these can connect. I like Rosen's design because, like, from my perspective, it treats assets more like assets versus just information. Like, there's a lot of bridges that more or less pass information or proofs of, something versus go through like a redundant auditing process, like you would expect with money itself versus kind of like information relaying. Any other questions on there that make sense to you, Alex?
Oh, a lot of questions. We are out
Let's
of
pick some
time.
interesting
So,
ones.
you think one more question?
Yeah, pick whatever's random.
There is one awesome question about identity, but yeah, it's about 20 minutes probably to answer. So I'll ask next time. Just copy paste this question. Currently, we are out of time, unfortunately. Some questions about Rosen Bridge, or maybe let's pick something for both of us.
Yeah.
So yeah, please copy paste. Did paste during the next MA, please. Wait. What answer? How can we tokenize consumable commodities? Probably also quite involved, right? How much Kraken is asking for Ergo listing? I don't know about any ask. Thoughts on aliens? Oh, we don't have time for serious questions even. Sorry. I ask the hard questions. Yeah, that's good. Hard questions.
Yeah, we had some great questions today. It's things that if you just kept talking about it, could.
Oh yeah. Yeah, government and money. Yeah, so it was really hard question among others, but we don't have time for hard questions as well. So what to do? Maybe. Yeah, let's talk if that's time. Yeah, what's the answer? Chaps, will you be taking a well-earned break over Christmas? How's about that? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good one. From just a little bit better. Probably not. I'll cook some food.
It's not that hard at least.
Yeah. Do I take a break over Christmas? No. I'll take a day, cook some food, have family. You're on the Orthodox, so you get the January Christmas, right?
Yeah, January 7th, and yeah, then also night of 6th. But yeah, it's pretty much the same plan. So yeah, usually, yeah, I'm going to church on January 6th night, and then yeah, well, taking rest for half a day on 7th, and yeah, that's it basically. Then you continue to work.
Yeah, nice food day though. So hopefully you
Yeah.
got good stuff cooking over there.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, yeah, it's usually about yeah, you can have something like duck or turkey, so maybe not very different even.
Yeah, I'm gonna smoke beef rib roast.
Yeah, sounds good. So yeah, a lot of questions, but we need for time to answer them. So please repeat the next time, and yeah, well, we will do our best to answer
We had we had
next time.
we had good questions this week. It's one of those things where I think most of them we could probably eat the whole hour, just like talking about what we know, what we don't know, and what we think. So, thanks for joining, everybody. I really
Yeah, and
appreciate it.
let's not let's don't forget. Well, it's about community after all, right? So I'm looking at the calendar and trying to figure out. So let me talk with QX and other folks when it would be good to have Twitter Spaces or community call maybe. So
Yeah,
yeah, AMAs are good, but yeah, it's the community after all.
I would love to get more, applications on here. Get people that talk about playing Cyberverse or buying stuff on Mart or using Quacks or whatever. A lot more interesting to watch these than to be on them. So that's an open invitation to everybody out there. So you can always decentralize me.
Yeah, and if you wanna join AMA, so yeah, it's also an option. So we had MG Pi recently, we had Canon a long time ago. So yeah, it could be you if you know enough about what's going on. So I imagine some folks maybe no, not less than us, right? Because well, it's hard to keep focus on everything.
Yeah, I have. I have to say that's definitely the case. People will ask like, "Oh, how come you didn't?" I don't know. You can say Cyberverse. That's its own ecosystem. There's always a ton of developments, new stuff, new games, new
Yeah,
everything.
it's
I
own
wish.
universe, but yeah, in regards with yeah, when discuss changes, so I can forward to Nautilus developer maybe.
Yeah, well,
I
yeah,
don't know.
we can make that.
Maybe, yeah, we can have wallet developers and so on the MA sometimes. Let's see. So it makes sense to play with formats all the time. I think because well, things are always changing.
All right, everybody. It's time to go refill my coffee, wake up a little bit. Thank you for tuning in. And yeah, feel free to hop on the chats, join, explore, and play around in the Ergo ecosystem. We're always looking for developers, users, feedback, because that's a part of how we make things better. So,
All
cheers.
right. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.